Asteroid of fear.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. And it's a very special episode. It's Memorial Day, so happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. Normally, I would do interviews on Monday, but I had a busy week, did not have any time, and it's Memorial Day, so you're kind of stuck with me. It's more of a special episode, and there's some people I want to truly remember. So, yeah, that's what we're doing today. But I hope you woke up, had your coffee, or are having your coffee as you listen to this. Maybe you're on a walk, banging out your morning routine, getting ready for who knows what. I think we're supposed to get a bunch of rain, but yeah, which means I will probably go out and do some delivery because I have a raincoat and the money usually hits when it's raining. If you're willing to put on the raincoat, that's it. So, yeah, I'm going to try my luck with that because we got to go out of town this week. Our middle daughter is turning 21 on Thursday, I think, and or maybe Wednesday. Bad with days right now. Um, yeah, so I've been kind of going all out. If you've listened to some of the past episodes, you know that I've been waiting for school to get out. And now that that's finally out, I have been balls to the wall. I mean, Friday, I went out. It was only like 5 hours and change. But man, the distance I covered, um, they just kept adding on orders and adding them on. And I was like, why not? I guess I'll go here. And you know, like where I live, let's say if I live 30 to 40 minutes one direction, that's where I normally deliver. It took me all the way 45 minutes to an hour the other direction if I'm the center point. And so, yeah, but that last order, it was a Walmart order. It like it was like 10 at night and I initially declined it because I was like, man, that's still like another 40 minutes from here, and it's going to put me home like close to midnight, blah, blah, blah. And so I declined it. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, well, what if it's like some poor old person who couldn't get out to get their groceries or something like that? And it's up to me. And it popped up again. Sometimes they do that, like you decline it and they'll hit you up a second time. And when they hit me up the second time, I accepted because it tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. So that was my thing. Um, but yeah, I did that, got home late, and went to bed. I got a little chip on my computer here, I noticed, but there's a screen on it. Um, Woke up early and then hit the ground running Saturday. I mean, I didn't even have coffee. Uh, I got partially interrupted. I think my wife asking me something and got me out of my zone, out of my routine, and I was trying to make book club at a certain time, and I had XYZ to do. I needed to go to the gym. I needed to run a couple of errands. And so I knew I was going to be pushing it. And so I skipped coffee and just hit up a dry scoop of pre-workout. Went in, did some back and buys, some cardio, and on to the errands we went. And after that, my daughter my first the intention was book club's over. Now it's time to go out and make that money. And my daughter was calling me. I'm still in book club, kind of like in the after hours chat discussion we have with B Low, and Um, he and I keep declining the calls. I'm like, I'm in a meeting, and she's like, I want food, and she wanted Chick-fil-A, and my wife wasn't feeling well, so I got her some soup. But my first delivery was in fact an unpaid delivery, but that's okay. It was paid for in love and tolerance. Yeah, they put up with me for all the years. My wife more than my daughter, but so they deserve it. And I was happy to do it to make their day. And then I got on with my deliveries, and it was okay. Wasn't too bad. Um, wasn't super great. I mean, they were kind of like back to back to back, but not, like I had like a triple order. And yeah, so it's kind of hard. Like when you keep accepting and they're back to back, like you never really like see how much you're accumulating. But I did okay for the amount of work. I mean, I think it was about 18 an hour. I have a little formula I might have mentioned that, it needs to be 10 to 12 bucks a trip or at least 15 or more an hour. What I consider slow days, and this is my first like 2 hours of delivering, I'll know. Um, on slow days, it's a 15 to 18 average. On high days, it's a, you know, 21 to 25 average. And good days are $30 averages. And that's usually when it's raining. And it's supposed to rain all week. So daddy's here to collect, baby. That's right. On to other topics. We It's Memorial Day, and like I said, I did have a few people that I kind of wanted to remember with intention and purpose. And then I asked the old Chat GPT, "Hey, what are some good topics for the Men of the House podcast? You know what? Scrub the interwebs and tell me what I should be talking about." We got a few things. What does honor mean today? Explore the modern definition of honor through the lens of military service, manhood, and everyday choices. Tie in personal responsibility, integrity, and legacy. Man, well, there was a couple of them. There was that one. I think I liked. I liked the quiet cost, how men carry grief and memory, and then there was a little another one of freedom and responsibility, Memorial Day reflection. Um, Yeah. What does honor mean today? Wow. Let's dissect that. For me, honor, I grew up taking martial arts from a very young age. And I want to say, like in Taekwondo, some of your credo type of thing, honor and integrity are in there. What you recite every day, how you're going to conduct yourself. Um, I think to do something honorable is to, well, let official definition of honor. Let's see, ChatGPT. Oh, slightly depend on the source. High respect, great esteem, privilege or distinction. This one, this one hits the mark when I talk about it. Adherence to what is right or to a conventional standard of conduct, integrity. So I think that would probably be a lot of how I define it. And it kind of ties into this freedom and responsibility. Um, you know, people, let's see how I want to say this. um, you know, I think it's always that I'll know, that integrity piece and what freedom means. I mean, we have freedom and there's this big blanket word of freedom. We think of like we live in the United States, freedom. We stand for freedom. Freedom of speech. But then there's also like this micro freedom outside of the blanket, these little daily choices. Um, for instance, if I, I don't know, like, okay, how about that? Easy one for the Uber, definitely. I could fuck up an order, and when I do, I always correct it. I know I've told the story where one time I had a double delivery. I forgot to drop off the drink. When I dropped off the second drink, I saw it sitting there. So I turned my deliveries off after that one. I went and bought her another Dr. Pepper, a cold one, and then I took the other Dr. Pepper that I left and wrote a note, an apology note, and put them on her porch. I tried to knock. They didn't answer. They didn't tip me, rightfully so. I messed up. And, there's a couple of ways I could have done nothing and just been like, whatever. Um, I could have blamed it on the restaurant. Said, oh, they forgot it, you know? But no, that's what honor kind of means to me is the integrity piece. Doing what's right, regardless if anyone's looking. Even if nobody will know, I'll know. And it'll impact how I sleep and how I feel about myself. So that's why honor matters, and for me, I went martial arts, did that straight into the military at 17. I was in Sea Cadets before the military. So honor was always kind of a big thing. And I had applied to, the academies, wanted to go to the Naval Academy or did I? Yeah, it was the Naval Academy. I got accepted, couldn't get a nomination. And the movies in the 80s, like you had Red Dawn. Oh, man, there's another one that's kind of like about the Citadel. I forget what it's called, but I love that movie. But honor is very, it's woven into the fabric of everything I was interested in, everything I was doing. And it kind of goes back to that thing like, that there's standards of conduct. I did a semester. Um, I was in the Corps Cadets before I joined the Navy. Yeah, I dropped out. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to college. And it was kind of to please my parents. It was, yeah. So, anyhow, but an honor violation is if somebody fucks up and you don't do anything or say anything, then you're just as guilty as them. And it's a big deal in the military. And, I think, but let's not make any mistakes. They let some shitbags in the military. And so don't associate everybody in the military with having honor. But I think with like manhood, everyday choices, as as it was talking about, and legacy and responsibility. For me, it's whether you're in the military or not. Um, but I always think that word legacy stuck out. And I always say, what am I showing my daughter? I talk a lot. This is episode 129 or 130. Yeah, I talk quite a bit, but we know she's not always going to listen to what I say. So I have to show her. And when I think of legacy, that's what I think about showing her by doing the right thing. Now, she's never going to know when I didn't do the right thing if nobody was looking, but I usually don't do that because it bothers me, it eats me up inside. Like I said, I don't know. And you, we talked about like accountability, truth, and um, integrity, and the freedom and responsibility. The fact that we have freedom comes with a lot of responsibility. I know I've mentioned before, I always say rules are for people who need rules. Like, I don't need to be told not to litter or threaten with a $200 fine. Keep our highways clean because I don't litter because it bothers me. It feels wrong to do it. Now, I know I have in the past, I'm sure, at one point in time. I haven't always had that. But, you know, you have you have to respect freedom because the fact that you can do anything doesn't mean you should. That's how you end up in trouble. People end up in prison. They lose their freedom because they have too much freedom. I had this thought earlier. I was listening to a podcast or watching YouTube and kind of dozed off and took a nap, and um mm, I lost my train of thought there. And I don't have anybody to bounce off of and tell me what I was talking about. And I can't rewind. I think because I was trying to decide if I was going to mention whether or not. Oh, yeah, I was watching Soft White Underbelly with episode with Coco, and he was in the Aryan Brotherhood, had his freedom taken away, and I just had this thought of like one of the things I enjoyed about the military is that it was structured. You knew what you were doing every day. You knew what you were wearing every day. I love freedom. I love freedom of movement. You have to be self motivated. But I also love structure and I love taking the guesswork out of it. You got a uniform, you got a plan of the day, you know what you're doing. And it made me think that I would probably do okay in jail, in prison, because it's structured similarly, you know. And there's a comfort to that. But what I have now is like a different type of freedom, because I don't have to be somewhere 9 to 5 every day. I have to be self motivated. I have to do things when I can. There really is no timeline. As long as it gets done, that's what matters most. So yeah, freedom comes with a lot of responsibility, and you have to use it wisely. And I don't know if people make that connection or that association. As I sit here and think of the song I'm Proud to Be American, where at least I know I'm free, and you think of free. Yeah, I'm free. But I think also it's important, to remember we take for granted. I mean, unless you've traveled, been to third world countries. I've never been to a communist country, but I've known people who lived in Cuba and was made to go to Venezuela as a doctor. And him and his wife escaped Venezuela and made it to the U.S. Now he's a doctor in the U.S. And, he was an interpreter for 7 years, waiting to get back into a residency and redo it all over again. Imagine that. Willing to do that. It's like people who go through buds 2 or 3 times in the seals. They really want it. Mm. Again, lost my train of thought. I don't know why. Why does this keep happening? Maybe because in that soft white underbelly, he mentioned dementia, early onset Alzheimer's. He thought he had it. Coco, that was the episode. And dementia runs in my family, so. Oh, yeah, we're talking about freedom and responsibility. And I'm back. I had to collect my thoughts and pause for a second. Yeah, so if somebody's willing to do all that for what a lot of us are born into and take for granted, then that should tell you how much it really means. And then we'll get to the kind of this part where we honor how men carry grief and memories, um, you know, because that's what Memorial Day is we're here to remember. The price of freedom wasn't free. A lot of people raised their hand and laid down their lives for it. I mean, I raised my hand. I didn't have to go to war or anything. It wasn't my time period, but for me it was 100% patriotic in terms of serving something bigger than me. But you guys know me. That's what I'm about. There's a lot of people who do it for crazy reasons or well, no, they do them. I guess college is a valid reason if you want to do that. I don't think it's necessarily the right reason, but a lot of people make it work. I always thought kind of the patriotism thing, like because you want to serve, that's why. But, growing up as a youth, I thought everybody was similar or kind of had the same ideas. And then you grow up and you realize that, oh no, people don't think it's that way. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there after 20 years of war who have to carry the weight of loss of fallen people, their brothers, people they shared time with. And yeah, it means something, I think, different. Um, yeah, if you've been in the military, it's like when I worked in the ER, or kitchens. It's very fast paced, um, intense. Sometimes, sometimes there's a lot of hurry up and wait, and you just become incredibly close with the people because you do a lot of bullshit together. When I mean bullshit, I mean like 8 count bodybuilders, cleaning this, cleaning that. It's never ending. Or when you're on a boat, you know, there's nothing to do but crack jokes, prank each other, razz each other, work out. But yeah, you become incredibly close with these guys. And, the wild thing is even if you have, like, let's say someone in your squad that's kind of like the outcast that is a pain in the ass that generally some people don't like, even if they're the fallen ones, you still feel bad. They're still yours. They're still part of your team, even if they're the least liked or the a hole of the group. It's like still don't want. We're still not gonna let people fuck with the worst member of our team, even if they're an asshole and deserve it sometimes. So yeah, you become incredibly close. The dynamics are there, and man, so well. First off, remember Commander Winfred Leon Buckingham, class of 1949, U.S. Naval Academy. He was the 97-year-old veteran I lived with for 3.5 months till his passing and cared for him. So I want to honor him. And then do a shout out. I usually do a post, but now that I have a podcast, we'll shout it out. Maybe somebody that knew this person, maybe his stepdaughter, whoever. But I served with him in the Navy, but he lost his life in the Army. So let's remember Army Staff Sergeant Lex L. Lewis. He was 40 years old, so of Rapid City, South Dakota, assigned to the 1st Squadron, 10th Cavalry, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, Fort Carson, Colorado. He died on July 15th at Shawan Garrison, Farah Province, Afghanistan, from injuries suffered when insurgents attacked his unit with small arms fire. So, wow, I served with Lex in the Navy. So, if he passed away in 2011 when he was 40, um, he was, yeah, he was quite a bit older than me. But Lex, man, people, I know actually one time somebody replied to a post. I remembered him for his comedy and antics. They remembered him for his drawing. But we weren't, I think I saw some of his drawings, but that wasn't when we were together. That wasn't what we did. Um, he and I served on the USS Independence together. We were both TAD to, we were parts runners. So basically, like when the airplanes and helicopters break, they submit like an order, and the AZs, airmen people, would get the orders, and we were the runners. We would take this order, we would go to a storeroom, we'd get the new part, and then we would take the old part to get fixed. Sometimes they're big, like actuators for a plane, radars, mechanical, electronics, and yeah, he and I worked 7P to 7A. And the cool thing is you get to run around the whole ship because the storerooms are located everywhere and everywhere you go to pick up and drop off. And so, if you need a nap, you can find a place. I'm speaking of the integrity piece here. And, but I would also get to go see people like my cousin who grew up on like the same 12 acres was on the boat. I think a guy we went to high school with. There was some guys I went to A school with that were in different squadrons. Um, and so I would go by and see them kind of in between times. But man, yeah, Lex was always working out. So he was a parachute rigger. I know he wanted to go to Buds. That's what he was training for, to be a SEAL. I don't know if he ever went to Buds or just got out and went to the Army, but Lex would always be cutting the cards. He always had a stack of cards on him, doing like push ups, sit ups, pull ups. And yeah, I guess face value would, you do the number, you assign it, and he would rotate them and he would do the deck throughout the 12 hours. So yeah, he was in shape. He was intense, but he was just funny. Funny. He used to do this thing. He used to make this motion like he was hooking up with a girl. And he's like, "Yeah, you just like put your forearm like in the back here." And like, uh, uh, uh. And oh, the offense. Yeah. Just thinking of some of the things he said, it would probably get me chunked off of any platform. We had a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I guess he went out and joined the army, and he was on his third deployment. He had had two other deployments in 2003 and 2004, and then he was back in 2008 and 2009. Yeah. But yeah, that's, the article here. He was survived by his wife and a 6 year old stepdaughter. So his wife was Molly, stepdaughter Ariel. Yeah, he joined the Navy after high school and was stationed in Japan. That's where we were. And he joined the Army in 1999. So that means he did like an extra 4 or 5 years. He might have went to Buds or tried. or got out and then said, I'm going in the army. Because that was his speed. You know, it says here that he always loved playing army from a little kid. And like I said, I know that's what he wanted to do. And I guess if you die doing what you love, then, and, for something bigger, the idea. But at the end of the day, that something bigger is usually a lie from the government. So it's about the person to the right and to the left of you. And that's why you do it. And I'm certain if he was a staff sergeant in a leadership position, um, yeah, that was everything to him. And then there's a couple other. I posted a pic of what was it, March 20th. That was 31 years ago that I had graduated boot camp. But I posted our YNA school photo, me, Juan, and Chris. Juan Pereira, and I forget Chris's name. But Chris, if you're out there from Chicago, Juan from Miami. Let's see, who else do I remember? Manny Manessis and Larry Layog. One of them might have been my roommate, Manny from LA. Bernard, he was from Texas. I don't know if that was his last name, probably. He might have been my roommate, but we went to A school together and he checked into my squadron. I was like, holy cow. I think that's in my story. Ah, I forget my first roommate, but I know he could speak Hungarian. He was Hungarian. And then Golden Fry Pete, one of the roommates we had that never wanted a shower. Yeah, some interesting folks. My boot camp guy was it Chris Nunez? I think it was. Me and him were the two shortest guys, so we were the dust bunny collectors. Get on a mattress pad and roll the whole length of the squad bay, collecting dust bunnies under the racks. Chris from Tampa, I forget your last name. We hung out a lot in Thailand and Hong Kong together. We were kind of traveling partners. We stayed in this little. Everybody else stayed kind of in this main hotel. We were the only two U.S. people where we were staying in these like little 5 or 6 little bungalows around a pool. It was nice. And Roy from Kansas, if you're out there, huh? Scobie Norton, I think that was his last name. I forget his first name because everybody's got name tapes. So you always call everybody by their last name. Scobie, I think he was from Boston. Danny Onyate from Miami. Yeah. So if any of you guys are out there and you hear this, reach out, say what's up. If anybody's who is listening who know these people, what's up? Also, I'm pretty sure they're still alive, but I served or know of them and they served, and I want to shout them out. Sean Suter, USMC. He might be a chief warrant officer or retired. He was in a Anglico out of West Palm Beach as a reservist. He might have went active. Jerry, I don't know Jerry's last name. Hopefully he's a billionaire by now. He was like in the cell phone tower thing when it first came out. The Flutter Kit King, Jerry, could drink like a fish. Who else? Sergeant Chimp. Those are the University of Florida days. ROTC. Oh, Dan Broadhurst. Yeah, Commander. I think he retired as a commander. Was the CO of a destroyer. I could have done that. Why didn't I? I'd be retired. The universe had other plans for me. God has other plans to become a podcaster, I guess, instead of being retired. Jeremy Gibo, Mike Mericles, Miracle, Giovanni Conway, McFlip. He might still be out there in the reserves as a Navy diver, as an officer. If you're listening, if you know him, if you know these people, tell them I said what's up. But yeah, those are all the people I remember. Some fallen, some here. A lot of good times. We suffered a lot together. So remember when you're out there this week, go out and be the person that you would want to meet. Happy Memorial Day.
Let go.